Yeah, we're with Zoe Hughes, who is the Senior Policy and Research Officer with Care Alliance. Zoe, you're very welcome to Disability Matters.
Thanks very much. Thank you for having me.
So, Care Alliance is a big name. You might tell us about it and about the history of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Care Alliance Ireland, we're an organization that is an umbrella organization. So what that means is we're made up of members who are disability groups who are working in any kind of supporting family carers in some way. So you have disability groups, you have local family resource centres, you've got condition specific groups like the Irish Cancer Society, like any of those kind of bigger groups as well, who do something working with family carers in some
Yeah.
way. And so we're an alliance made up of those
Oh,
organizations.
very
So
good.
that's kind of who we are. That's the umbrella, I guess.
Okay.
And then so what we do is we have a couple of different things that we do. So I'm in research and policy, which is the least sexy part. It's kind of
Yeah,
the boring part that
but
kind of
equally as important.
I like to think so anyway,
Yeah,
absolutely,
absolutely.
obviously. So I work in the research and policy side. So from that aspect, what we do is we do a lot of trying to work with government to get
Yeah.
policies changed, trying to advance things like the budget, for example, working for family carers. And that's kind of the main thrust of the research and policy side. We also do some research here and there on different bits of interesting things that are to do with family carers. We do some writing, that kind of stuff. And then we also have a couple of projects now. We didn't used to. We were set up originally like 25 years ago, I want to say,
Wow.
um, to just do that kind of policy work and that kind of services work. And now we actually have two projects that work directly with family carers, and it's all online as well. So we have an employment project, so helping family carers get back to employment, and then we also have an online family care support group that's run through Facebook for kind of peer support for family carers. So that's
Very
us in
good.
a nutshell.
Very good. We'll get into all that now soon. I
Sounds good.
wanted to ask you, when you said the budget, were the
Hmm.
organisation happy with the budget, not happy with the budget, and how family carers came out of it?
Hmm. So it was a bit of a mixed bag, to be quite honest with you. So there was some things that we were quite pleased with, and then obviously there was some things that we weren't so pleased with. So starting off with the good aspects of it. So one of the things that we as an organization, a lot of our member organizations and others in the sector have been asking for a couple of years now has been the abolition of the means test
Yeah.
for carers allowance. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners and you will have heard kind of speeches in the Dáil and in the news asking for that as well. So that's something that we've been working on for a really long time. And in the previous program for government, which is like kind of lays out what everything, all the different government attributes that are supposed to be happening over the next couple of years, they committed to the abolition of the means test over the lifetime of the government. And so the first step in that was increasing the limits of what people can earn and still get carers allowance. And so that was increased by quite a lot actually this year. So now starting in July of next year, family carers can earn up to €1,000 a week if they're a single
A
person, and up
week?
to yes, and
Wow.
up to 2,000 per week if they are as part of a couple who are jointly assessed for tax.
Right.
So that means then that someone, a family, for example, if there's two people, could earn up to €104,000 a year and still be eligible for carers allowance because of the means test. So that's a big step in getting rid of the means test. It doesn't mean it's done entirely, but it was a big step. So we were really happy with that as a kind of first step, to what we've always been asking for. But then on the flip side of it, we would have liked a lot more money in the weekly payments for family carers. We would have liked an increase in the care support grant, which is
Yeah.
an annual payment. So we would have liked a lot more, money put into services and supports that family carers use an awful lot. There was some, and we have to acknowledge that there's more space now for speech and language therapists and a few other things like that. SNAs have been increased, but obviously we would like to see more going into that as well. So it was a mixed bag,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of family carers who, if they're already in receipt of a carers allowance, they won't necessarily see any benefit from the means going
Yeah.
up or
Yeah.
anything like that. So for them, it might not have been a very good budget at all. But for others, it was a good one because they're going to be in that net now and get
Yeah.
access to those supports.
And as you said, the lifetime of the government is when you
Mm,
see rightly what their policy will be.
yeah, yeah,
Very
exactly.
good.
And there was, yeah.
So tell us, how many members have you got?
So our membership of our organizations, we have, I think it's 103 members
Wow.
now. So that's groups across the country. So um, Yeah, so it grows all the time. There's some organizations that join and some that leave, and that's perfectly fine. That's how organizations go. That's how umbrella groups grow. So yeah, so we're about 102 or 103 now, I think,
My
is where we're
God.
at.
That's organizations.
Yes. So it's
Very
not
good.
individual members. We don't have individual members. That's
Yeah,
all
that's
organizations.
okay. And tell me, do we know how many family carers there are in the country?
We do. So there's the latest numbers. So there's, again, if we want to get into the nitty-gritty research side of it, there's kind of two numbers that are thrown around a little bit.
Okay.
There's one that's from the census, which is just over 240,000, I want to say off the top of my head, but I think I might have gotten that
Wow.
wrong. But that's increased from the last census, which was much lower than that. So there's been a big increase between 2016 and 2021, which is when the last one was done. So, but we actually think that's quite a low number. We actually think that's a really low estimate
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people who won't necessarily see themselves as a family carer. When they
Yeah.
see that
Yeah.
question, they kind of go, well, I'm not a family carer. I don't really care for my mum. I just give her a hand every day. I just go in and give
Yeah.
her, you know what I mean? I just go in and
And
help her
do
out. But
exactly what a carer would do.
that's exactly
Yeah.
it, but they
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
necessarily see themselves in that. Well, that's just what families do. And you're like, yes, that is what families do, absolutely. But that does also mean that you're doing extra on top, which means you could be a family carer and you're part of
Yeah.
that group. So there was other research that was done still by the Central Statistics Office. So it's still government, it's really kind of good, robust, really good, solid evidence. And if you estimate that, what they said, and you kind of pull it up to the rest of the population, you're looking at 600,000,
Wow.
or well over 500,000 family carers doing that work in Ireland today. So it's a lot of people, a lot of people. And if you
Yeah.
were to replace, so if you were to like pay them hourly, kind of what you would pay, say, a home care worker coming in, for example, take an average, you'd easily be sort of 20 million euros, 20 billion euros a year in
Yeah.
replacement if every carer was being paid that same amount. So it's a big amount of people, it's a big amount of work, it's a big amount of assistance that people are giving people in their lives.
I read something last week. I think it said that a vast amount of family carers are female.
Yes. So it's about 60-40 split.
Okay.
60% are women and 40% are men. But again, when you get nerdy about it, and you dig down into
Yeah.
it, a lot of the long hours and a lot of the really intense caring is done by women. And a lot of the kind of really good instrumental stuff like helping out with paying bills, helping out physically around the house, a lot of that organizational stuff is done by men, but a lot
Yeah.
of the day-to-day physical care is done by women. So they're both equally as important, but it's just there's a slight difference as to how people care in different genders.
Very good. And how do you become a member?
How do you become a member of Care
Yeah.
Alliance? So if you're a part of an organization who is not for profit, so obviously we don't have for
Yeah.
profit organizations, and if you're working and if you have the support of family carers as part of the work that you do, you can apply to come and be part of our organization. And what happens then is you'll send in, usually give us a call or talk to my CEO Liam, or we'll have a chat and see if it would make sense, and then you put in an application and it goes to our board of directors who make sure that, it's an organization in good standing, like there's no scandals, there's no, dodgy accounting going on and
Yeah.
stuff like that, just to make sure, you know what I mean? It's really important that everybody who's a member of Care Alliance has really good governance. We're really strong on that. We've won the Good Governance Award 4 times now in the last couple of years, so we're really strong on that. So we want to make sure that our members are strong on that too, and we can bring them along if they need extra help with that. That's absolutely fine, and that's how you become a member of the Alliance. Yeah.
And what's the advantage of being a member? That's the
There's a lot.
important bit.
I know it is, isn't it? Now I
That's
have
how
to do
you
my
sell
sales.
it.
That's my sales pitch now. I mean, the real benefit of it is for organizations, particularly smaller organizations, maybe local groups of parents, whatever it might be, who actually don't have someone on staff, for example, like me, who can, understand the policy stuff, who does the research stuff, and so I'm on board and I can basically help you with that as an organization. If you need a hand figuring out what we need to ask for, how are we going to get talking to our local TDs about the care stuff in our area? How are we going to do that kind of stuff? What kind of research do we need to do? I can help with that, first of all. So that's one of the big things, and get you the information that you might need. One of those things is I've been doing this for 10 years now. I know where
Right.
to go to find the stuff. You know what I mean? So like it could be a 5 minutes for me. It could be 5 days for you. So that's one of the advantages. And the second part of it is as well is that trying to bring along a kind of a sense of being part of something as well, being part of the Care Alliance, and knowing that there's other organizations that we can connect you to. So if we see somebody doing something like what you're doing in Donegal, and there's somebody doing similar down in Cork, well, we'll put you guys together. We'll introduce you guys. We'll make sure that you guys link up, and particularly some maybe you might get in and want to talk to some of the bigger organizations, and some of those big organizations can be a little dense to get into. You know what I mean? So it can be a bit intimidating, and so we can help with facilitating those kind of meetings as well.
Very good. I saw from your website that you also do some areas of collaboration.
We do.
Can you let us know one or two areas that you're involved in?
Absolutely, yeah. So we do quite a lot of collaboration again, and I'm coming at this from the policy and research side of things, so I'll talk about what I do. And so one of the things we have, and actually we're having our next meeting this afternoon, is the Family Care Research Group. And what that is, it's a collaboration between researchers in universities, in organizations like mine, with family carers who are interested in research around family cares issues. There's students in there. There's lots of people in that. There's some policy, and there's some social workers in that as well who are interested in research as part of their job. And what we do is we come together a couple of times a year and we try and collaborate on projects. We try and talk to each other and peer learn from each other, really, and go, well, what needs to be done? Because research very often can be done for research sake, that kind of way. It's like, oh, it's an interesting question. But for us and for members of that research group, and what we want to make sure we push along is that research needs to be done so that it actually adds something to the lives of family carers. Research is great, but you have to actually figure out a way to make it put into action. If you find out something is missing, well, part of your job then is to make sure that whatever's missing gets put in. And that's what we try and do in the Family Care Research Group. So that's one area of collaboration we do. And then another example, for example, is when coming up to the budget time, I work with a lot of other organizations, both our member groups, but also different organizations that are just doing similar stuff to us, like the Disability Federation of Ireland, for example. They're kind of like us, but for disability groups, And so we work really closely with them going, well, what are you guys looking for in the budget? What do you guys think is really important? Can we say the same thing so that it looks, so there's more people asking for the same thing? So it kind of presents a unified front, I guess, from our sector, because sometimes people can kind of say, it's almost like pitching, well, if older people get €10, then the carers can only get 5, or the disabled people can only get, so sometimes there's that little bit of a pitch thing that happens in the media or in the government. And we want to make sure that it's really clear that actually, no. We're all looking for the same thing. We're all looking for people's lives to get better if it can. And so we all want to make sure we're asking for the same thing. So it's very clear that we're all on the same page, and, we're all very unified in what we're asking for. So those are two areas, I guess, of collaboration that I do on a fairly regular basis.
And tell us about training. What areas of training are you involved in?
So my colleague Amy, who I believe was on the show before, she is the manager. The
lovely Amy.
The lovely Amy, absolutely. So she's the kind of project manager for our Re-emerge project. And the Re-emerge project is a training program that looks to work with family carers who've been out of paid employment or volunteering or education for a while and would like to get back into it. So it can be really intimidating when you're a family carer. Sometimes you've been really, you're at home all the time. You're not necessarily getting out loads. You have a lot of responsibilities. But caring often does come to an end, whether that's, for a really good reason. Like, for example, if you're caring for someone with cancer and they go into remission, fantastic, you're not a carer anymore. You're not needed in the same way. So you can, that's a really good way, really good reason, a positive reason that somebody would have their caring responsibilities perhaps removed or taken away. But for sometimes, people go into residential care, people pass away, and that's how your caring comes to an end. And it can be really scary to all of a sudden go, gosh, I have to change what I was. I've been a carer for 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is. What do I do now? And so that program is really there to bring people along at their speed, to work with them on their kind of professional and, looking at getting their CVs up to date, getting their skills scored. What do you actually want to do? Do you want to work in a shop? Do you want to set up your own business? Do you want to go back to education? Do you want to do your master's? Do you want to do your degree? Do you want to do your leaving cert for the first time? So it's really about bringing people along at their pace, family carers who are still caring or have been caring and have finished up, to get back to either volunteering, go on to further education, go into adult education, go into the workplace, set up your own business, whatever it might be that works for you. So we have access to counseling services. We have some funding in that to enable people to take on courses. We do a lot of one-to-one work with people to kind of help them build up their confidence as well, because confidence can be a really big issue when you've been out of that kind of world for such a long time. So that's the main training that we do currently anyway. We've done a bunch of different things in the past, but that's our current one anyway. And it's open for applicants. So if anybody's listening along, you can go onto our website and click the button and you'll be able to talk to Amy and she'll let you know if the program will be right for you, you know.
Just give the website and I'll ask you for it later.
Yeah, it's carealliance.ie.
Very good.
It's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple one.
Yeah. It's all important. The training is just so important for people coming out of caring. Your own area is research. Tell us a bit about some of them areas that you're involved in.
Yeah, so we have lots of different things that we do. So one of the things that we really try and do is the family care research group is probably one of the big things, is trying to make those connections between researchers working in different universities who, you know, don't always communicate necessarily with each other and don't always know what everybody's doing. So it's about trying to make those connections and go, oh, we're doing something on that over here, let's work together, you know. And actually something really positive that came out of that is actually a lot of the universities, researchers who've been part of that group, they've set up their own kind of other group looking at supporting young adult family carers who are in third level education. So getting kind of supports for those individuals who are in university, trying to make sure that they feel welcomed and that there's supports for them at the university level as well. Some of the research that I've written on in the past, we have something called the discussion paper series, which is those kind of, I love a good awkward question, you know. I love a good awkward question. And I love thinking about some of the things that not everybody necessarily wants to talk about, or something that's not necessarily impacting lots of people, but for the people that's impacting, it's really a big deal. So for example, one of our member groups a couple of years ago came to us and said, look, we're having this issue where a lot of and they were an intellectual disability support service, and a lot of the people that they were supporting, their parents were getting much older. So the parents were in their 70s and 80s, and so the people in the service were in their 50s and 60s, and they were noticing that like it was kind of getting flipped as who was caring for who in those situations. And they were like, what do we do with that? So I kind of did some research and sort of looked at what the options are and published a paper on that kind of, I called it role reversal, you know, and like looking at that. I wrote another paper, for example, on how being a family carer can impact your romantic life and your you know, partnerships and romance. Nobody really talks about that, but it's a big impact it can really, really have, you know, and for those people who it's impacting, it can be really important. I'm doing my own PhD, as it happens, supported by the organization, looking at supports for family carers who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. So looking at what might be different, what might be the same, what kind of additional supports maybe those family carers might need, in addition to, because we often think of a family carer as being kind of, you know, well, if you're in Ireland and you're in fact talking about family carers, it's usually a woman. She's usually in her 40s or 50s that you think of. She's usually white Irish, and she's probably Catholic, you know, and by the numbers, that is likely who a family carer in Ireland is. There's lots of people at the margins who are having different experiences and need different supports. So I like looking at those margins, and that's something that we're quite strong on in the organization as well. We were also involved with something called PPI Ignite, which is the public and patient partnership involvement in research. I don't think I got that right, but you know, it's PPI.
It's something similar.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a big kind of collaboration between all the universities in Ireland, looking at making sure patients and family carers are being involved in research. So we were involved in that for a couple of years as well. So those are some of the things we do in research.
They're all very interesting areas.
I think so.
Talking about people with intellectual disabilities and older parents and that, the biggest problem for older parents of any person with a disability is what will happen when I die? Where will my child end up? And that's a big, big issue that I don't think anyone is addressing right now. However, where am I? Sorry, I'm going to stop. I told you I make all the mistakes.
There you go. I'm going to take the opportunity to have a drink.
Do. Count back in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, I wanted to ask you about National Carers Week. When was it? What happened? And is there anything planned so far for next year?
So Carers Week happens every year usually the second week of June. Sometimes it moves to the first week, but it's usually the second week. So it's usually around the 6th or 7th is when it starts. And it's a week-long series of activities. It's really an awareness-raising week that us in Care Alliance have been involved in organising for the last, I think it's 17 or 18 years now. So I've been with the organisation since 2015, and I know it's been going for a few years before I got there. And so the main thrust of it is a way to bring awareness to the issue of family carers across the country. And what we try and do is we try and make sure we keep it quite a positive week. You know, we have 52 weeks of the year. 51 weeks of the year, we're very conscious of the difficulties and challenges that family carers are experiencing, and we concentrate our work on those. What we try and do for that 1 week is to kind of shine a bit of a positive light on the experiences, because lots of family carers really enjoy being a family carer. It's something that's really positive in their lives. You know, there's challenges, we're not going to deny that, but it's something that's can be really positive for people. So we try and do more positive things during that week. And we work with a lot of different organizations who set up and run events during the week, so in their local areas and online as well. So that might be something like a coffee morning for family carers in the local centre. It might be a series of informational talks as well. It might be something really specific. You know, if it's a disability group running something for carers, it's about what's happening for carers in our specific cohort or whatever it might be. There could be things like there's different things like day trips for family carers organised in local areas, going off on a bus for the day and having a day out. There's often things like, pamper days and stuff like that as well in local areas. I know one year there was a boat trip organised. There's often lots of different things can happen during the week. We do this stuff online as well. So there'll be information days online. There'll be launches of research often happen from universities. They take the opportunity to launch some care research during that week. And so that's kind of what happens in the week. We have lots of giveaways as well on the National Carers Week page. We have merchandise that we like to give away to people, free stuff. Everybody likes free stuff,
Yeah.
And we like to give away stuff for family carers as well. It's just to try to recognize the work that's done all throughout the year in a positive way. And then so for next year, I think I'm not on the organizing committee of that anymore.
Okay.
I've done my time on that organization, so I'm not entirely sure what's in the works for next year, but I know we have a really good staff team and volunteers as well who are looking at all of that this year. And to hopefully we have, I think it's 7 or 8, it could be slightly more organizations who are partners in the week. I'm not going to try and list them all off, because if I do, I will forget someone, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
but if you go to carersweek.ie is our website, and also if you go to Facebook and search National Carers Week, you'll see all the information. You'll see everything there. You'll see all the partners who are part of the week as well and run the events as well.
Very good. So we were right at the end of our interview. Thank God, says you.
Not at all.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before you go?
Not really. I mean, I think the last thing I'd like to say, if there are family carers who are listening, one thing I really wanted to make sure that people are aware of is that we have an online family care support group, and it runs through Facebook. And absolutely anybody who is caring for anybody in Ireland and is over the age of 18 is welcome to join that group, and it's free to join. There's no costs attached at all. And some of the activities that we do is we have activities pretty much every day, and there's no cost for family carers, but we have a book club, and if you sign up for a book club, you get the book sent to you and you can take part that way. We have an art group, for example, that does follow along art classes by Zoom. It's all online, so if you're in the position where you can't necessarily go out to a family group or something along those lines, but you'd like to meet other people who are in the similar boat to you, you'd like to get involved in some activities, we have a gardening group where we send out seeds every couple of months, and I know there was a sunflower growing competition. I think last year there was the largest pumpkin competition growing that we had. There were some big sunflowers in that one. It was great. We have a poetry group. We have a monthly quiz that I'm the host for.
Very good.
So if you like the sound of my voice, feel free to sign up and come along to those quizzes every month. But it's all free for family carers. I think it's really important to let people know that it exists. So if you're listening and you're a family carer and you think that might be good, if you go onto Facebook and you search for the Online Family Care Support Group, it's not the coolest, not the catchiest name, but we set it up during the first week of COVID, and we just needed a name, and that's what we came up with.
Yeah,
we were very we were very pressed, so we could have come up with a snappier title, but you know, it's where we're at now. And we have just about 11,000 members now in that group from all over the country. And so it'd be really great to have any listeners along who are interested, come along and check that out. And hopefully you'll be able to get some supports, get some answers to any questions that you have as well. We have a lot of volunteers there who really know their stuff, you know, and who come in and help you out if you've got questions about anything about caring at all.
Brilliant. Zoe, thanks a million for talking to us at Disability Matters.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
It was our pleasure.